Okay, welcome to Free Association. My name's Dennis. It is 2 a.m. on the 23rd, I think it is, of July. So heading towards the end of July now, so halfway through the summer, or at least a good chunk of the way through the summer. It's been a little bit cooler over the last couple of days, still 25 degrees, so it's still very, very hot. I wanted to talk about one of the underlying assumptions of my podcast, which is Imagination Creates Reality, which is a book by Neville Goddard. So it's a way of manifesting that he seems to have cracked. He seems to know what he's talking about. And it fits with my philosophical assumptions about the world, that the world is mental, which is an old Hermetic idea. So I've got no issues at all with imagination creates reality. And what I wanted to do was give an example, and it's not the best example in the world, but it's an example of how things potentially might be happening. So if you remember a few years ago, there was a thing called QAnon, which was a fairly radical right-wing movement. Good morning, Fax Porcupine. Welcome to the room. Believe it or not, I'm talking about imagination creates reality and QAnon at the moment. So I'm going to try and justify that to you with some logic and with some assumptions and see what you think. So here's my theory anyway. So QAnon, amongst other things, was, if you remember, it was a whole lot of people potentially going to prison, being charged and being sent to Guantanamo Bay. So all the usual suspects, so Hillary Clinton, Anthony Fauci, all of those people, Podesta, all of those people that were involved in nefarious activities, but it was never taken to court and never proven. So they ended up on a QAnon list of people who were going to be tried and imprisoned at Guantanamo Bay. So military tribunals, basically. So this was a few years ago, though. It was what, 4, 5, 6 years ago at least. It's probably more than that. It's probably closer to 10 years ago. Some of it, at least, the Hillary stuff. But if you look at what's happening now, we've got information coming out about Obama being involved in an FBI and CIA plot that turned into Russiagate, essentially. But there's evidence now. There's some documentary evidence. So there'll be an inquiry. There'll be a grand jury or whatever it is. So there'll be some kind of legal process that turns into a military legal process if people are being accused of being treasonous. And this is basically what QAnon was saying however many years ago. But it's the first stage of it. So it's very early days. But if you think about my assumption that imagination creates reality, there was a lot of people involved in Q. There was a lot of people sharing the material that was coming through that particular medium. It's a lot of people's imagination working on putting people in military prisons in Guantanamo Bay. And my theory is that it's creative. It creates reality. So it's taken a while. There's a delay. There's a time delay. But my theory is that QAnon is starting to manifest that particular bit of it. There were other things about child trafficking and satanic ritual abuse and all of those sorts of things as well that are in the zeitgeist, that are always pretty much in the zeitgeist. But QAnon was a very, very focused version of it. And I think when you've got that kind of focus and that kind of energy, it's creative. It manifests. So it's taken, 5, 6 years, but we're starting to see that now. Right, that's what I wanted to say. So if you want to jump on and have a conversation, you're welcome to do that. Or I'll just stay on for another 5 minutes or so, see what else comes into my head to talk about. But this is one of my foundational assumptions, is imagination creates reality. And it sounds a bit nonsensical. It sounds a little bit kind of woo-woo, a bit out there, but it's in a lot of the old philosophical text. It's just disguised. It's in Buddhism. It's in Christianity. Why do you think there are images of the Buddha all over the place? It's to give people enough imagination to be able to imagine the Buddha with all the extra bits and pieces that are symbolic. So the symbolism's important, but the fact that they're imagining, they're visualizing a Buddha in meditations or whatever, peaceful Buddha or a wrathful Buddha if it's Tibetan meditation. So all of these things are visualized, they're imagined, and that's what makes them more real. So it makes them more manifest. Christianity is the same. When you do Holy Communion or whatever, you're reimagining, you're reliving essentially a version of the Last Supper, which makes it more real. It's like a rehearsal. Like mental rehearsal makes things more real if you're playing tennis or any kind of sport. So I think of Q as a mental rehearsal for putting corrupt people in prison. That's the way that I think about it anyway. I've not heard anybody else talk about this stuff, so I thought it's worth going live and having a conversation. Right, I'm gonna wrap it up at this point. Just a short one, but it'll be on my podcast. So if you want to listen to the beginning of it, you're welcome to do that, or comment, or whatever it is you want to do. You're welcome to jump on any time. Facts Porcupine. I know what I'm saying is a bit esoteric and a bit woo-woo, but have a think about it. Have a think about it. All right, that's it from me. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you again soon.